Hey, Scott Sambucci here. It's time for another daily dose edition of the Startup Selling Show, talking sales with Scott Sambucci. That's me. So today's episode is a continuation of our look at first principles when it comes to startup selling. So over the last couple of weeks, I've been starting with a post I did over on LinkedIn called the 10 Sales Rules for Startup Founders. I went through 10 specific, what I call first principles, 10 basic rules that every startup founder needs to learn and implement. Because if you don't learn and implement these 10 sales rules or these first principles, then you're going to find yourself really struggling to grow, to scale, to build more repeatability and scalability in your sales process. So this is the fifth installment of this series. We'll continue to move on over these next couple of weeks, talking about these first principles so that I know that I'm getting this message out to as many people as I can, not just from the LinkedIn post, but of course with this podcast and other things that we're doing each and every day here at Sales Qualia. So as a quick recap, the very first episode we did on these 10 first principles, actually, I jumped right to number 6 because I felt at the time it was the most important one. So the sixth principle that we covered first, oddly enough, was called focus on now, worry about later. Focus on now, worry about later. Number 2, we then jumped to the top of the list and said that the number 1 first principle is sales is an everyday activity. Sales is an everyday activity. The next first principle we talked about was that no one cares about your product. No one cares about your product. If you haven't listened to that episode, trust me, go back and listen to it. And the most recent episode that we ran or that we recorded is on the principle that implementing equals learning. So in this fifth installment, what we're going to talk about is the sales rule or the principle that product problem fit before product market fit. Product problem fit before product market fit. And I'll explain that to you in just a moment. So before we get into this principle, product problem fit before product market fit, I want to remind you that coming up very, very soon is an event that you should consider coming to, or at least checking out. And that is an in-person, in a real life event that we here at Sales Qualia are hosting with Amy Volas over at Avenue Talent Partners. And the event is called Your Sales Roadmap to $100 million ARR, from startup to scale up. So this is an event on April 26th and 27th in Chicago. We're hosting it in this world-class city that we found to be a central location for people all over the United States. And even we have some folks coming in internationally to attend this event. What we're going to be focused on is helping you with really three key outcomes, not like things you're going to learn or stuff you're going to check out or speakers you're going to listen to. 3 key outcomes. Number 1, the first outcome is getting really clear, super clear, abundantly clear on what does it mean to build a repeatable sales process for wherever you are right now in your growth journey. So when we do our work here each and every day here at Sales Qualia, we've now almost over the last decade have helped hundreds. We've individually coached hundreds of startup founders and have worked with thousands through our webinars and workshops. One of the biggest challenges that we find is that many times startup founders they actually don't know what sales processes and systems they should be implementing. So when it comes to things like lead generation, based on your revenue level, there's certain specific systems and strategies that you should be using. And those systems and strategies might be appropriate at one level, but not appropriate at another level. Or certainly, for example, outbound. Outbound is an example of a selling system that we help our clients install. But if you're still looking to get your first customer, your first 10 customers, outbound is not a system you should be using. So these are the kinds of things that we help to pull kind of the blanket off of to help it be more clear for you as a startup founder. So one of the things we're going to do in this in-person real life event is get a really clear look at your current sales process. Where do you have gaps? Where do you have opportunities to improve? And identify the specific selling systems that you should be building and installing over the next 12 months to help your startup grow and scale and reach that next checkpoint. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, we're going to look at your people. So what is the go-to-market team that you should be building today versus tomorrow versus a couple of years down the road? So Amy Volas is an expert in this area. She's going to be talking about who to hire, when to hire them, how to hire them, where to go find them, those kinds of people that you need to build, how to think about compensation for that go-to-market team. And so she's going to be pulling apart this entire process for you, this hiring process, the recruiting process, this compensation process. So you get super clear on how you can start to scale your organization with the right people that you need right now. And then the people down the road that you're going to need in the next 6, 12, 24, 36 months, from contributors up to your sales leadership team. That's the second thing. The third thing we're going to do is make sure that you and the rest of the founders that are going to be joining us are going to have a chance to work collaboratively. You're going to be sharing ideas, asking for help from your peers. This is a top tier peer group that we're bringing in. At the time of this recording, we already have close to 20 founders that are going to be joining us in this room in Chicago. It's not only just a world-class city, but it's a top tier location in Chicago, very creative space right on the river. In addition to those 2 days that we're going to be working hand in hand with you, you're going to be working with each other. We're going to have a dinner event that night that's included as part of your investment to come work with us. And as part of that collaboration, our job is to help you understand what other founders are going through, have them share their experiences so that maybe some of the challenges that you're having are ones that other founders have already overcome. And some of the things that you've been able to overcome are challenges that other founders have. So it's so important for you to know that you're not alone out there. And even when times are tough and things are slowing down and you might feel like, man, this is, it's been harder now than it's ever been. We want you to know that you're not alone, that none of us is smarter than all of us. So by getting out of the business, stop working in the business or instead working on the business, taking those 2 days away from the Slack messages and the emails and the constant busyness that you're experiencing every day. This is the only way you're going to be able to get out, to look ahead, to think forward, and to build the right systems, strategies, and people that you're going to need to grow and scale. So that's why we're running this event. So if you haven't already, go over to salesqualia.com/Chicago 2023. That's salesqualia, QUALIA.com/Chicago 2023, Chicago 2023. All of the details are there. You can save your spot. To highly encourage you to bring a co-founder along if you have a co-founder, or if you have a sales leader, bring your sales leader along with you as well. This is a founder-led event. Founders are required. You can bring a sales leader, but sales leaders on their own. Because this is a founder-led event, we're going to be talking about systems and strategies for you and your startup. It's really, really critical that the founders are there as well. So make sure you reserve that ticket. Get that spot. You can also send me an email, scott@salesqualia.com, scott@salesqualia.com. Just type the word roadmap, because the title of this event is Your Sales Roadmap to $100 Million ARR. Just type roadmap in the subject line. And if you want to have a quick chat with me or somebody on my team about all of the details and make sure that you're 100% clear on what the outcomes are going to be, we'll be happy to do that and walk you through how you can save your spot. Okay. So now let's go back to the sales role: product problem fit before product market fit, and why this is a first principle when it comes to startup selling. So, when you think about getting out of the garage, you built your product, you go out to a market to start to sell your product, assumably, so I hope, when you started your company with that idea, like, I'm going to start a company, hopefully it wasn't just like, I'm going to build a really cool product because I can. When we talk to founders, in most cases, when you talk to that founder, like, hey, like, what's the why behind this? Like, why did you start this company? Why did you leave your job at Google or Facebook or some Fortune 500 company and instead focus on this business, this startup as your way of life now? And in most cases, what those founders tell us is like, well, look, I saw a big problem in the market, or I saw a big gap with the existing solutions, or I saw that there was a big chasm between what is right now and what could be and should be in the future. And so if you think about that mindset that you took when you started your company, that you were solving a problem, you saw a problem or a gap in the marketplace, and that's why you built your product. The very first thing we need to do when we're going out and selling is to make sure that our product solves a problem for our future customers. Like, we talk about this all the time with our clients, like, no problem, no sale. No problem, no sale. Nobody's going to buy a product just because it's cool, just because it's AI driven, just because it's uses machine learning, or it's automation, or some other, whiz bang sort of technical reason why you built the product. The only reason that enterprises buy a product is because it's either going to help them solve a problem, or it's going to help them achieve a strategic priority that's critical to them. And so when you think about this early stage selling, while you might have a big market in mind. There's the total addressable market, there's the total serviceable market, and there's also the initial addressable market. So a TAM, let's say you're selling to banks, a TAM might be in the trillions, right? You think about banking internationally, that's $1 trillion industry. But then you bring it down a little bit and say, well, what's our serviceable market or total serviceable market for now? And maybe you start to identify like, okay, we can only service banks in the United States. And then you bring it down another level and think about what's our initial target market or initial serviceable market. It might be nailing a niche of banks or credit unions or other companies based on a certain version of the problem that they have. So we experience this at Blend. I talk about this pretty frequently, that when we were selling the first version of our product, which was a mortgage lending platform, like we could have sold to 8,000 plus mortgage lenders across the United States. But we chose to narrow it down to the top 100 mortgage lenders. And the reason we did that is that we knew those top 100 lenders had a very specific problem when it came to acquiring their mortgage borrowers, when it came to servicing those mortgage borrowers, and ultimately competing in the next new world when it came to mobile and customer expectations when it came to mortgage applications and mortgage borrowing. And so those early customers, yes, we wanted to sell to the entire market of 8,000 mortgage lenders. But for now, in the early stage, we just wanted to focus on what the problem was that we could solve with the product that we had. And so the reason this is so important is that if you try to sell to everyone, you're going to end up selling to no one, right? And we've seen this not even just in our example with like selling to banks in mortgage lending. We were also getting approached by lenders in commercial lending, which is, yeah, it's lending and it's kind of like mortgage lending, but it's actually a little bit different. We also were getting approached by lending platforms that were doing peer-to-peer lending that said, you've got this lending platform. It'd be really interesting if we could adapt it to our business, right? So yes, even within lending, there's multiple verticals within lending. And had we tried to sell to all of the mortgage lenders and also sell to commercial lenders and also think about how we could adapt the platform to peer-to-peer lenders, we would have ended up with a product that was a complete Swiss Army knife that would have not have been sufficient for any one of those company groups or those market groups. And so when you're out there in the early stages, and this is not just getting your first 10 customers, it's most critical when you're getting those first 10 customers, but it's also important as you continue to grow and scale, because even at $1 million or $3 million or even $10 million in revenue, you're still just scratching the surface of the total addressable market that's out there. So as you march along your growth curve, as you start to add more customers, add more revenue to your startup, it's critically important that you're constantly focusing yourself and your customers and your sales teams on what is the problem that we are solving, or what is the strategic priority that we are helping this next customer achieve. Because if we can't talk to them about their problems or their priorities and how we're going to help them get the results that they want or need for their business, then it's going to be very, very difficult for us to sell. So the more specific, the more personalized, the more focus that you can get around product problem fit before you worry about selling and getting to $100 million in revenue, the more successful you're going to be with your startup. So this is why we call this a first principle, is focus on product problem fit before worrying about product market fit. So take that for what that might mean for your business. Maybe if you look at your sales pipeline right now and you realize, okay, yeah, we've got 20 active deals, but as you start to examine those 20 active deals, maybe they're with a combination of different size companies. Maybe you're talking to a Fortune 500 and you're also talking to an SMB and you're also talking to a really small company. Or maybe across those 20, you might be selling to, some of those deals might be with hospital and healthcare systems. And another couple of those deals are with insurance companies. And another couple of those deals might be with financial service companies. And you're saying to yourself, well, like all of them have a problem that we could solve, right? All of them are people we want to sell to because we can replace the current system that they're using. But the challenge to that is that when you're talking to those hospital and healthcare systems, the intimacy at which you need to understand their problem, their priorities, their current situation is going to be different than the financial services company. It's going to be different than the insurance company. And so the more that you narrow, which we're going to talk about in the next first principle, you have to narrow your niche. It's a little precursor for you as the next sales principle. The more you're going to be able to speak to your problem product fit and not have to worry about product market fit. That's a later thing. The now thing, remember, focus on now, worry about later. The now thing is focus on product problem fit before product market fit. So hope that's helpful for you. I just want to wrap up here and again, remind you about this event that we've got coming up, salesqualia.com/Chicago 2023. You can also send me an email, scott@salesqualia.com. Type the word roadmap into the subject line. And even if it's for whatever reason you're not able to or not interested in joining, or you just can't for different reasons, maybe you're already booked for those 2 days, I would still encourage you to reach out to me, because as you're thinking about these first principles throughout the course of this podcast series, if some of this stuff is really hitting home for you and you want to get a second set of eyes, you want to get a new perspective, you want to work on a couple of ideas on how you can fill gaps in your sales process and take advantage of opportunities in front of you, then that's what we do every day here at Sales Qualia. So even if you just want to grab a quick chat with me and it's a 20-minute jam session, a 30-minute call on Zoom to talk through where you are and where you need to be in the next 6 to 12 months, then I would love to spend that time with you. I'm always happy to help people that reach out and ask for help. But if you don't ask for help, then there's no way for us to help you here. There's no way for me to guide you into those next steps on your journey as you go from startup to ramp up to scale up. So you can also shoot me an email, just say scott@salesqualia.com, type the word private into the subject line, just indicates to me and my assistant that you want to have a quick chat. We'll get a time on the calendar, we'll grab some time, work on some ideas, and help you identify what you need to work on now and what is a later thing for you. So that's it for now. This is this edition of the Daily Dose edition of the Startup Selling Show, Talking Sales with Scott Sambucci. Again, just recapping these first principles when it comes to startup selling as a startup founder. This is number 5. We'll work on number 6 coming up in just the next couple of days. You'll see this next episode coming out, and a little precursor, as I said, the next sales principle, the first principle when it comes to startup selling, is narrow your niche. Narrow your niche. That's what we're going to be talking about next. Okay, that's it for now. Thanks for listening. Make sure to tell a friend or 10 about this episode. And in the meantime, reach out to us about the Chicago event we're running in April, or reach out to me individually if you want to have a quick chat and jam on some ideas for your startup sales process. All right, that's it for now. Thanks for listening, and looking forward to jamming with you next time in our next episode. See ya.